So for those of you who are new to our webinars, we are HDK. We're a digital marketing agency. We work particularly making websites for clients and digital marketing. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. So this month, in fact. So that's happening. Your speakers today, well, my name is Hans. I'm director and founder at HDK. I am a man in my 30s, I wish. A man in my middle 50s, bald head, dark beard, olive complexion, brown eyes. I'm wearing a grey jumper today with a Keith Haring poster from my student days behind me. And I'll hand over to Meg.
Morning, everyone. Lovely to see so many familiar names and faces. I'm Meg. I am the account manager at HDK, and I am a white woman in her 20s with black hair that I've...
Oh, and we've lost your sound, Meg.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Great. I just gave my visual description, so I hope that that came across. I'll pass over to Linus.
Hi, my name's Linus. I'm a web support developer here at HDK. I actually am a man in my 30s. I also have a bald head like Hans, but hidden underneath a hat. I have a mustache and glasses on as well. Excited to be here. Thank you,
Linus. So we've picked on this topic today. We've talked about AI before. We talked about it back in, we first mentioned it in November 2022 when ChatGPT came out. We've done another dedicated session on this. We touched on it last month on the webinar when we talked about the ethics around social media, but also touched on AI. So it's a topic that we've been circling around a lot. And I really wanted to do a sort of practical session on it. And that's what we're aiming to do today. So AI, you can't have escaped it. I'm sure you will have your own experience, and we want to draw on that later. There's a lot of people here today, so I know there'll be a lot of other experiences that are worth sharing with the wider team here. There are big topics around AI, clearly, and as I said, we've touched on them slightly in other sessions. But today, I really want to focus on practical things that you can do, tips that you can take away and implement straight away. So these are all things focused on. We're going to try and focus as much as we can on the arts, culture, and heritage sector, because that's the space that we work in, and hopefully most of us here do as well today. And we're going to keep those tips, as I said, practical. So after a little introduction, I am going to hand over to the team, the three of us actually, and we're all going to share 6 tips that we think that you can take away and implement straight away. And then we're going to have a breakout session. We're going to get you into about groups of 7 or 8 people. And there we're going to set you a task to think about the challenges that you're facing at work, marketing, arts marketing sort of challenges, and then how you might solve them and brainstorm those ideas as a group, how you might solve those problems. And then we want to share those with the wider group, of course, at the end of that. And then finally, we've got some housekeeping. And then we have collected a handout that covers most of the things that we're going to talk about, all of the things that we're talking about today. Plus it goes into some of those in more depth because we've got a very limited amount of time. We want to do that all within an hour, and hopefully if we can finish before the hour, that's always our aim as well. Before I move on, I wanted you to think about the challenges that you've got. I just said that, and those sorts of challenges I'm imagining might be things like how do you create more engaging social media content? Or how do you make your marketing budget stretch further? Or what can you do to bridge the skills gap that you've got between what you need to do for your? So those are the sorts of challenges I want you to think about. And when you think of them, maybe just jot them down, keep them for the breakout sessions, but also keep them in mind so that as we're sharing tips, think about whether those tips will help you with those challenges. I hope at the end of the day at the end of the session that we will have lots of tips for you, and certainly some of those tips are ones that you can take away and implement straight away. So I think I've covered all my housekeeping and everything I'm going to do. Just to remind you that we'll refer to a handout, and we'll give you that handout at the end. And also just to say, we will record the session. There'll be, we hope to create a blog post with some of the notes from today that you can refer back to, and also refer back to the recording as well if you want to, or share it with a colleague. So without further ado, I think I'm going to hand over to Meg to share her first tip. And I'm going to
absolutely, Hans. Thank you. Great, thanks. So first tip wise, we're talking about working smarter and not harder. So we are likely all familiar with ChatGPT now, and it does have the potential to be a great time saver. Let's jump right into some top tips to prompt effectively. And today we're going to be drawing upon Jeff Su, who is the product manager or a product manager at Google. And he came up with 6 building blocks. So these, but before I felt that I was just kind of writing what I came out of my brain into ChatGPT, and I was frustrated that things were coming back that I didn't really need or want. And these building blocks have really helped refine what I put into the system. So the first one is task. So begin with an action verb, something like generate or write or analyze. This is an essential block. Doesn't have to be in this order, by the way, but this is a really important one. Next is context. So this is really key to rein the AI in. So you can add some key metrics of success. You could input some of your brand vision or a key target audience. Next is an example. This isn't necessary, but it can really strengthen the response that you get. So perhaps putting an example of a blog post that you really like, or a social media copy that really fits the kind of thing you're wanting to produce. Next is format. So that is whether it's a blog post, website copy, a table, a report. What actual format do you want to receive? Number 5, which is my personal favorite, is persona. So again, this is not necessary to add in, but it can be really beneficial. So you can name someone specifically, like a CEO or a marketing manager, or even try, if you're playing around with it, something like Superman or Dolly Parton. And lastly is tone. So you'll likely have an organizational strategy that can inform this tone. And if you don't already have a copywriting guide, try referring to your values. So are you open, inclusive, accessible, bold? So what does this look like in practice then? We've put together a fictional company. So this is made up. And if you are doing this yourself, do be more specific with your company name and key information in the context portion. So you are the senior marketing manager at a world-leading contemporary dance company. That's our persona. And you are about to launch the company's biggest show to date, which will tour to 12 venues across Europe from July to September 2024. There we've got some context. Write an e-newsletter to potential ticket buyers who are already contemporary dance fans to tell them about the show. That's a clear task. This e-newsletter should include a catchy headline, an introduction to the show, clear information about the tour, and a call to action to book tickets with an exclusive discount code. There we've got format. Be inspirational and creative in your speech, and write the e-newsletter in an accessible and friendly tone. As an example, here is a previous email from the company, and then you can copy and paste the example. So that's the 6 building block methods. I won't show the results. It was fairly mixed, but that's a great place to work from. And you might not get what you want the first time around, but this is a really good method to rein the AI in to produce results closer to what you want to see. This process and various resources from Jeff Sue, including this example that we've given is included in the handout that we will share at the end of the session. So don't feel you need to ferociously write things down. I will pass back to Hans.
Right. Thank you, Meg. So that's really helpful to understand how building blocks of using these large language models, as they're called, or chatbots, because it's all about the prompts that we put in garbage, get out garbage, put in quality, get out quality. I wanted to pick up on this idea of prompts and talk about one of the features of the Pro ChatGPT, the ChatGPT paid for version. So I've had the paid version now for nearly a year, I think, and I really recommend exploring it. The first 2 months are free, so you can play around with it, see if it's for you or not, and then not subscribe to it. And then after that, it's about $25 a month, I think. The main benefit you get from it, you get speed, you can get more results out of it, you can put more information into it. So those are all really helpful. You get the latest technology. But there's two things that I find really useful. One of them is that you can upload your own documents to it. There's things to think about around that, but I'm not going to discuss that here. And the second one is something called My GPTs. I can hear I'm losing my voice now, but let's see how I get on. So I'm going to start sharing my screen again. Share screen. Now, what you'll see here, this is ChatGPT. This is the paid for version. It looks very similar to the free one. And what you get, if you click on your name and go down to My ChatGPTs or My GPTs, you get something where you can create new GPTs or you can access the ones you've already created. Now, what are they? In a sense, they are your own custom templates of prompts that you like. So you could take a prompt that you need to use, or a series of prompts that you need to use on a regular basis. And bearing in mind the way this works, so you're using natural language. As humans, it's easy to forget that natural language. It's not sort of precise coding or formulas. So this is a way of recording those. And of course, you don't need any coding language to do this, or a coding experience. You just go in and it prompts you. It asks you, what would you like to make? So you literally respond in the way that you would want to respond. Now, for time, I'm going to share two that I've created recently. The one I want to spend time on is sharing this one. You get to give it your own name. I've come up with this really snappy name, My Venue Press Release Processor. I'm sure you can come up with something better. But I've created that following the prompts that ChatGPT asks me, and then saved it. And this is where I would find it. I've imagined that I am managing the content across media for, say, a festival, or maybe it's an exhibition. So I would typically get maybe tens or hundreds of producers, artists, exhibitors who want their information on my website, on the social media channels, in the brochure, and trying to collect all of that. You can imagine, I'm sure some of you experience, is a time-consuming process. You're going to get lots of different styles, lots of different formats, and you can give them templates, but the styles are still going to come different. You're not going to be happy with the punctuation and the spelling, all those sorts of things. So this one would work by uploading all of the press releases. Now, I've just given an example of uploading one press release for the tour Wonderboy. That's a tour that's touring the UK, a show that's touring the UK. We've created the microsite for it. And the press release is freely available on the website. And you can see at the top here is the press release that I've uploaded. And then literally in seconds, it produces web copy to the style that I've instructed it to, a post for X, hashtags that you might want to use on Instagram and things like that, and then content ideas that you can go back to the participant and say, if you come up with these content ideas, we'll promote them on social media. You can imagine how this can do. Now, the fact is that on the pro version, you could upload several in one go. You can play around with that, and that's just a really obvious way that My GPTs could work for us in this sector. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about here. The second thing I wanted to talk about was, we've talked about prompts, we've talked about prompts on ChatGPT. I wanted to think about the other alternatives to ChatGPT, because they are coming out thick and fast. This week, from memory, we had Le Chat, a French version that has been supported by Microsoft. A couple of weeks ago, we had Gemini. And Gemini, I've been playing around a lot with, is Google's version of ChatGPT. So if you've been using ChatGPT and you're happy with that, I would really strongly recommend you test out the answers on other systems. They all work slightly differently. They'll have different database. They'll source data in different ways. So, for example, ChatGPT, its data it covers the web up to April 2023, so nearly a year old. Google, the web data it uses is right up to date. So there are potential for slight differences in our answers there. The other thing that, so that's one of the key things. The other thing I'm finding with ChatGPT and Gemini, and I often run things side by side on both of them, is that I kind of like the tone of Gemini sometimes. It feels a little bit more sensitive and friendly at times. ChatGPT, in comparison, obviously it depends on how you prompt it, can feel a little bit more formal in its natural state. There's other things like that you will find that the difference between them. There's other ones that we've put in the handout. So Claude has same ancestry as ChatGPT, but supposedly claims to be more truthful, more ethical around privacy. So they have standards that they're championing there. And there are other ones as well, and I put those in the handout, as I said. Gemini is literally changing day by day, and I had a really good example of it crawling websites and giving information. So I asked it to crawl the HDK website and just give me a list of 20 of our clients at the moment. That worked really nicely on Friday when I tried it out. And then when I tried it out yesterday, the privacy rules have changed, and it says we can't. I think I've got it here. It said something like, unfortunately, it's currently, oh no, not that one. I think I've deleted it. But it basically says that it can't crawl websites for you, so for privacy reasons. So that's changing literally day by day. I wanted to test what show information it could get for me. So, for example, I asked what I could see at Sadler's Wells on my birthday, 22nd of September. Put it in your diary. And it came up with a show that's on at the Peacock Theatre, which is absolutely accurate. Whereas when you type that into ChatGPT, it wasn't able to search for current information, so it wasn't able to give me that information. So that's just an example of how two systems side by side might compare. Other things I do, I'm writing job descriptions and putting it through Gemini and ChatGPT and playing around with the tone. I'm getting structures for onboarding documents and getting ideas of what we should be including in our onboarding briefing papers or documents. So things like that I'm using all the time, and picking and choosing the responses I like. And the more you do with different systems, the better, more comprehensive responses you might get. So that's just 2 tips from me. I'm going to hand over to Linus now.
Thank you so much, Hans. And I'll definitely be trying out those other text generators there. Thank you for sharing. So what I want to do is that I want to touch on SEO optimization or search engine optimization using AI, namely the Pro version of Yoast, which I'm sure some of you have been using already. Maybe not the Pro version, but you might be using Yoast. So I'm just going to show you my screen here. So this here is the backend of our website. We are HDK, and this is a webinar post from, I think, it will have been December. And you can see here in the Yoast premium section here, there's a sad face there, it's red. That means that the SEO for this page isn't very good. So first thing you would do is, the AI doesn't do this yet, but you need to enter a focus key phrase. So because this is about digital marketing trends, I think the focus key phrase should be digital marketing trends. This button here is an AI feature of Yoast Premium. I think it's connected via SEMrush as well. So here it gives me related key phrases. So it's trawled the internet for this, and it tells me the volume of them. So the higher the volume, the more you want that. So I can click add related key phrase. I think you can add up to 3. And this now has increased our SEO. So very easy, very simple. Scroll down here. It still says it's bad SEO though. So we have the SEO title here. You have this button here that says use AI. If we go ahead and click this, it generates us titles. And you can see this green bar here, depending on which one you choose, the SEO goes up or down. So this one here seems to be the best one. We can apply this AI title. Great, increase the SEO for this one here. Doesn't have a meta description. So again, we're going to use the AI to write this for us as well. It has the same kind of feature where it tells you how good it actually is. It seems to be this one is the best one. So we're going to click here, apply AI description, and great. Now that clicking 3 buttons, essentially, we've gone from bad SEO to, okay SEO. And I think that's kind of what this whole webinar is about, which is, using AI to work a lot smarter. You could achieve the same results by just being good at SEO optimization. And if you are, then the pro version of this, it comes with a bunch of other features, obviously, but maybe you won't need the AI version. I'm still not completely sold on it, but in the handout, there's going to be a bunch of other tools and AI things that you can use to improve SEO for your own website. And that is me for now. And I will hand you back on over to Meg, I think.
Thanks, Linus. Thank you very much. So we're going to talk about very quickly the even more dark art to ChatGPT, which is AI art generators. And there's lots of discussions over ethics and copyright going on at the moment. But in terms of working smarter, we did a bit of a deep dive into prompting tips for AI art generators. There are significant differences between the different systems, and we'll come to that in a moment. But some general prompting tips then. So first is to research the model that you are using, whether it's DALL-E or Midjourney. We'll come back to an example in a moment, but there are some significant differences. The next is to be clear with what you prompt. Don't confuse the AI with too many unnecessary words or phrases. Concisely describe the environment. So descriptive words are good, just not too many. Avoid conflicting words. This one is one that I often trip myself up on. So words like bright and dark within the same prompt, or surreal and realist. And lastly, include the style of art you want to receive. So using a very helpful Hootsuite article, I prompted 2 tools, DALL-E and Muse AI, on the following prompt. So the prompt I gave was a realistic painting from the viewpoint outside a 1960s diner using monochromatic colors and vintage feel. So here is what DALL-E gave me. It's not wrong. It's got the right viewpoint, and I can somewhat tell it's a diner, but it's not quite what I had in mind. And here is what Muse AI gave me. This example on the right here is much closer to what I was hoping to receive. So I was interested by how these 2 systems could produce something so different. And instead of going straight to Google, I decided to do a bit of a robot inception. So I went to ChatGPT to ask it to make my prompt better. I didn't manage to find the answer that I wanted. Even when I was starting to use the 6 building block methods, it wasn't quite giving me what I wanted. I'd be really interested to hear if anyone else has tried this robot versus robot situation and got anything beneficial out of it. So I went old school-ish to Google, and I researched why DALL-E's response may not have been quite what I was looking for. And I did find some really useful info. So I found that DALL-E responded well to styles like digital art and cyberpunk. I found that it responded well to short and clear prompts with a few descriptive words. And lastly, I learned that DALL-E isn't very good at filling in the background of an image if it's not explicit. So I gave it another whirl with this prompt. Astronaut on a bright orange space hopper, digital art, background at the beach. And these are the images I got. So this was DALL-E and this was Muse. So this for me felt much closer to what I was envisaging. Obviously, neither are a space hopper, but they're somewhat in the realm of reality. But this image in particular from DALL-E was much stronger, I felt, at understanding what I wanted, at filling in the background. This doesn't quite feel like it's just plopped there in an image. It feels like it's part of the image. Of course, the Muse image seems to be a bit more striking. So to summarize, research the model you're using. Be clear, concisely describe the environment, avoid conflicting words, and include the style of art. If you have Canva Pro, you get 25 credits a month to create images with DALL-E, so do get prompting. And I will pass you back to Linus.
Thank you so much, Meg. Those AI images always scare me a little bit. It's very uncanny valley still, but we're still very much early days of the technology. So what I want to touch on now, which is something that's very near and dear to my heart, which I feel like I say in every webinar, it's Google Analytics 4. So Google Analytics 4 has a lot of AI already built into it. And what I want to do is I want to touch on a couple of those features. So I think artificial intelligence has been a part of Google Analytics, since Universal Analytics, as Analytics Intelligence, I think it was called. And this tool provided users with insights into their websites or app performances. And GA4 actually takes this further by utilizing machine learning to simplify data interpretation, and you gain automatic insights into how a website performs, and it's much more user-friendly. So a couple of examples of that. Just on my screen now, you will see the backend, our Google Analytics account for We Are HDK. This bar up here, if I can find my mouse. Great, my mouse just, oh, it didn't die. Great, cool. So up here, this search bar up here is actually using AI to kind of figure out what the user wants. Well, Google Analytics tries to figure out what you want as a user. So you could type in something like, which countries contributed the most users? You type that in, and then you get this here, top country by users. That is Google Analytics using artificial intelligence to figure out what you want. And then you get the insight here. United Kingdom, United States, 8 visitors from China in the last week. That's interesting. So another part of this, just kind of focusing in on insights. If you were to scroll down on your own Google Analytics account, you get this, insights and recommendations. So these are automatically generated by Google Analytics. And it kind of tries to figure out what you want to see. So users for Chrome websites spiked last week. It thinks that's interesting. I don't think it's that interesting. If you click up here, really struggling with my mouse here. Right. If you click insights, you get all of these insights here as well. So these are, again, automatically generated. You can create your own, though. Up here, there is a create button. So we're going to go ahead and create our own insight. So this is essentially you telling Google Analytics, this is what I'm interested in. And then it uses artificial intelligence to interpret that and then, well, let you know whatever you want to know, essentially. These are suggested custom insights. We don't really care about those. We are going to create a new insight from scratch here. And what we are going to do is the evaluation frequency. So this is essentially how often you get sent an email. We're going to do monthly. We're going to do all users. We're going to, we're going to segment these. So we're going to select an age demographic of, let's say, 65 plus. We're going to apply that. So that is our audience segment now. The metric, we're going to do active users, and the condition is change is more than 25%. And we're going to do a comparison period of month on month, essentially. So what we're saying now here essentially is we're telling Google Analytics to let us know if there is a percentage change of 25%, so either more or less of active users who are older than 65. So we go ahead and name this change in pensioner users, we're calling it, and then we click create. And it's as simple as that. So you can, this is one of very many tools that are AI tools that are integrated into Google Analytics. All of the rest of the ones will be on the handout as well. So do look at that and essentially just play around with them. You can create a lot of value for your business using these AI tools. And yeah, that's the end of my presentation here. I'll hand you back on over to Hans.
Thank you, Linus. And it's interesting to see how Google Analytics is changing. And I think for a lot of people, that first sort of understanding that GA4 is so different from previous version is one step. But just seeing that you've got all of this natural language ways of interrogating your data through AI on GA4 coming through, and I think it's clearly something we want to be playing with. Meg, I'm reminded of the images that when you shared those. We were talking about the Wonka exhibition in Glasgow this weekend, and I noticed they used they used AI. Clearly, had used AI for their marketing images in a way that's not particularly cool, or it didn't look. It looked very lazy the way it was done, and I compare that with. I remember San Francisco Ballet using AI for the Nutcracker, and it was much more stylized. Wasn't so obvious AI, but and then also I guess talking about the downfalls of using AI in a very lazy way is the fact that they used the script. They used AI to create the script for the Wonka thing, which I thought was really funny. Some of the things that was coming out of that. So if you haven't heard about it, look up what was it?
Wonka Experience Glasgow. If you want just a 5-minute chuckle, really recommend.
Yeah. So I guess that emphasizes, I guess that illustrates the fact that, some people say that AI, are threatened by AI and how it will take over our jobs. That was certainly a fear when ChatGPT-4 was coming out. But I think then other people have said it's not AI that's going to take over our jobs. It's people who've got skills in AI that are going to take over our jobs. So if we don't get those skills, somebody else probably will pick up those skills. So that's probably the fear. So it's embracing the technology. We've had these developments in technology since I've started. It was the internet first, then it was social media. Now it seems to be AI. So these are just things for us just to get our hands dirty and just practice us. And that's the point of today's session, just practical tips that are easy to play around with and experiment with. We're going to move into our breakout session shortly. Before I do that, I want to share some polls with you. I want to run some polls with the wider group. Jessa, before we go into the breakout rooms, we understand the kind of experience that we've got. Oh, I thought I'd set myself on Do Not Disturb. I have. Sorry about that. I'm going to block that. We're going to set some polls going just so we understand the experience in the room, and that will help us with the discussion later. So first one is, what is your experience with AI? And I've got some choices there. And if you could answer the one that feels right for you, and we'll give it a few moments for you to read that. I'll go quiet. yeah, if you've read through that, start answering those. I should say behind the scenes today is Leslie. She's an intern from Boston University who's with us, and she's doing all the hard work and graft behind us. So she has. So we have, the answer to that is I have experimented with some basic AI tools, is the most popular answer. But there's nearly 20% of you who haven't tried it yet. I hope today will encourage you to experiment at least with things like ChatGPT and Gemini. And then some of you who feel you're more experienced than that. So the next question is just to get a sense of frequency. And obviously this is the people who have tried it rather than the people who haven't tried it. So of those of you who have tried it, how often are you using an AI tool? Yeah, the answer's about to come up. Mostly weekly. So actually that's really interesting that you are using it mostly weekly, and that's really encouraging. So that's going to work well, I think, for the breakout sessions in a minute. One last survey, if you can find the chat box again, and we'll collate these and share them in the notes, I hope. But do you want to put in the tools that you are mostly using, mainly for for work purposes? So if you're using ChatGPT, that's obviously one you're going to put. If you're using some of the other ones, it'd be great to hear, get a sense of a flavor of the ones. Yeah, free or not free is good to know as well. Yeah, ChatGPT. Some interesting new ones coming up there. Brilliant, those answers are coming nicely now. Keep those answers coming, as I said. We'll collate those into something meaningful for the follow-up notes as well. Someone's already got Gemini Advanced. I want to talk to you about how you got access to that, because I couldn't get access to that. So well done. So please carry those on. I'm now going to explain the breakout room. So the idea here is that you're going to break into groups of about 8. Think about the challenges that you're facing. Ideally, come up with 3 challenges, and then as a group, brainstorm some solutions for those. We're going to share with you another form to fill out. So in your groups, nominate one person for recording the challenge and some of the solutions. There's so many of you here, we'd like to collect all of them, but we won't have time to discuss them afterwards. So I think, Leslie, if you put the link in the chat now, if you click on it, it should open up another window for you. And then you have that there, and we'll also share that link with you after while you're in the chat room as well. So do stick around. This is a great way of learning from your peers for this. And let's see where we've got 5 minutes, and then we'll come back to a handout. So does anyone want to share any of their ideas, things that they learned in that session? You can feel free to unmute yourself or put your hand up. And I can't see the participants at the moment. Yeah.
Rachel, do you want to go for it?
Hiya. So the very first thing raised in our group was, can it save me time? Can it streamline processes? We had a bit of a discussion around fact checking, and one thing that came up that was interesting to me is there was a concern about whether the grammar would be correct. And I've just thought, well, I've made my own judgment, but it hadn't occurred to me that people were worried about the grammar as much as the facts. So I thought that was a really valid thing. And then the other thing was we had just a lot of uncertainty around copyright, both of the images that have been used to create other images and of the created image, and just a sort of lot of uncertainty as well as discomfort around what that might mean to artists and to our organisations or ourselves.
Right, thank you. Thank you. Emily, you volunteered to speak for our group, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, we were talking about how we use it for copywriting, and I was saying that I've recently started talking to it more like I would a colleague, and so often when I'll kind of copy paste in the show copy or film copy that I need rewording, and it'll often send it back to me reworded but to the same length. So then I'll read through, pick out specific sentences that I like, let it know, and then say that I need it shortened as well. So it will kind of keep the bits that I like, but it does cut out all the waffle. And I've also used it to bounce ideas off as well for creating video content, which has been interesting. Some of the ideas it comes up with are quite basic, but sometimes it will come up with something a bit left field that will then spark other ideas. I guess a challenge I've had with it, and perhaps it's a really easy thing to change, is it writes in American English for me. And so often there'll be spelling mistakes, but I'll have to kind of double check that what I'm putting out there isn't written in American English rather than British English. So that's a challenge that I've been experiencing. Perhaps there's an easy solution for that, but I've not found it in my settings.
Not necessarily in your settings, but have you tried just prompting it, say, give answers in English? Because I think I've tried that, and I think that might work. If you,
I don't know if I have, so maybe I'll try that.
yeah, I think you're right. I don't think it's in the settings, and I couldn't find anywhere where I could store it, so it always did it. But I think you can definitely ask it to do English rather than American English. I'm pretty sure. Great, thanks for that, Emily. Anyone else want to share some ideas? And there's and Emily Collins has also put some in the chat. So equally, if you don't want to speak and there's some good points that you think are worth sharing with your peers, please put them in the chat just now as well. But yeah, does anyone else want to share feedback from their group?
I think
I thought, yeah, sorry, Rachel, go ahead.
No, you're much wiser than me. You go.
No, I was just saying maybe. Sally, just what you were saying about how you used ChatGPT to find out what information isn't online. I thought that was quite interesting. If you want to share that.
Sure. So I was just explaining in our breakout room that we haven't used AI much in terms of it doing the content generation, but we have used it a little bit more in terms of research. So rather than us, because we produce blog posts on accessible and trusted information on Scottish archaeology and Scottish history more generally, it saves us trawling through the internet trying to find what is out there already necessarily about a certain topic. If we bung something into ChatGPT like when did the Picts live, and the answer's pretty good, then we have an idea that the knowledge that is already out there on the internet that ChatGPT is using to generate that answer is pretty good, and so we probably don't need to do our own. However, if we have put something in like what happened after the Romans left Scotland in 410 AD, and it was wildly bad and clearly was picking up on resources that were outdated. It's a very nuanced period of history, so we thought, okay, that's where we can jump in and we can provide something that's a bit better. So yeah, not so much in the content generation necessarily, but more in like a research phase. That's
fascinating, and that's really interesting, Sally. Thank you for that. I'm conscious I always want to finish these quickly within the hour. Obviously, people have to leave, but is there anyone else who wants to share a couple more things? And then we've got the handout and the last couple of things to do. If not, then I will move on. We would love you to fill out our survey. We do these every month, and we will do them as long as people want to come to them and people find them of value. But in order for us to make sure that happens, we always ask you to fill out a short 2-minute survey. That survey's just come up in the chat. Please, I'd really be grateful if you fill out that. I'll go quiet for 2 minutes just so you can focus and concentrate. And then when that's done, we'll quickly wrap up with a link to the handout for today's session. And when you've completed the survey, if you can just put done in the chat, and when I see a lot of those, then I'll know it's time to wrap up. I can see those dones coming in. So yeah, just finish off if you're still doing it. That's absolutely fine. I've put on the screen, just to save time, the next 3 webinars. That those of you who come to regularly will find them on our website. And I think the link might be coming into the chat in a moment as well. Also in the survey, I think there was a chance to sign up to our newsletter as well. We do webinar monthly updates. Those are more frequent, but we also do a newsletter which is quarterly, and that has case studies, marketing tips, industry insights, those sorts of things. So that's, yeah, that link to the webinar is there. And then I think we were going to share the handout. Thank you, Emily. No, you've got to go. I know we're just on the cusp of the hour. So yeah, there's the link to the download. As I said, that's got a little bit more information than we've been able to share today. But also we've been gathering new information in the webinar. We'll try and include that in the blog the webinar write-up, of which will also be a link to the video as well when it's done. So it just remains for me to say thank you very much. This is a topic I find fascinating, and I'm really enjoying what we can do with these tools. I'm not one of these people who's frightened about what might happen. I'm totally been through these sorts of changes in technology before, so absolutely embrace it. I hope that you feel the same, and I hope there are tips that you can take away today and implement from either from us or from the people who shared them in the breakout session and afterwards. So thanks again, and I hope to see you all at a future webinar. Thank you very much.